Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey. Of course, I sit with my best bud, Tone. What's up, Tony?
Man, something about the best bud. I like that.
That's the best part, the best bud?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Anytime, man. Or every time. Every time.
That's not true.
That's not true. Call me a liar.
Right.
In front of our guests. Come on, man.
I'm not. There's a podcast out there somewhere floating that you didn't say best bud. So,
and you kind of threw a best bud temper tantrum over it as well.
I did. Sorry.
That's all right. Hey, so once again, we have a really cool guest coming on. First of all, she has the greatest name ever. I don't even know if it's her real name, but it works. It's awesome.
And she had the longest Uber ride in history that I
know. You know what? I think we'll keep. You know what? Let's open up with that.
Right.
So we'll bring her on and let's open up with that. So our guest today, she's a like a business manager or business coach, I guess is what she is. And you know, she's been doing it for about a year, and I'm really intrigued by her drive and her.
She's been doing it publicly for a year.
No, that's true.
She's been doing it a lot longer than that, you know, through referrals. But yeah, she's you know, in the industry, man, she's making noise. She's a great coach and mentor to a lot of people.
No doubt, man. Should we get in?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So our guest today is Lexi Lomax, and like I said, she's a salon coach. So let's get into her story. And like, hey, Lex, I know you're there, but hold on. You're definitely going to open up with the longest Uber ride that I've ever heard of. So Miss Lexi Lomax, welcome to your day off.
Woohoo! Thank you, guys. And yes, that is my real name.
That is it. Like, so you were born as Lexi Lomax?
Yeah. So my mom said, if I'm gonna call you Lexi, we'll name you Lexi. And then technically, I'm married, and my married name is Oldenburg. Just doesn't flow.
No, Lexi Oldenburg definitely doesn't not as well as Lexi Lomax.
Yeah,
she's almost like a hockey player
or a superhero, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
like Lex Luger and Lexi Lomax. You know,
I dig it, man.
Right.
And I think that's a thing. I think in DC Comics they all have like double lettered word names, right?
I know, it's so funny. I get comments on my name all the time, and people think it's like a stage name. I'm like, no, that's my name, but.
Well, it's sort of your stage name.
Yeah, now I guess it sort of is. For sure.
That's awesome. So we kind of tease it a little bit. So you know, as in the last year our travel's gone up, and the last year your travel's gone up. So kind of tell us about that crazy Uber ride.
Yeah. So basically, I am a salon owner. I am a salon business coach, and I teach for KMS and Goldwell. So I do a lot of different things in our industry, and I'm blessed to do it all. But this particular instance, I was traveling from San Diego to New York City to present with Modern Salon. So like you get that call and you're like, oh my gosh, what does it take? I'll clear my schedule. I'm going. And so that's what I did. I get on the airplane. It's like the whole thing just like starts poorly, like delay, like won't let you off the plane, but you can't get like, you know, they're not going to leave, then like all the things that you don't want on a travel day. And finally we're like up in the air, and they're like, oh, well, we don't have enough gas. There's a lightning thing. And also the airport you can't land at because all this other stuff.
Lightning as in like storm?
Yeah.
There's like a lightning.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Like in the sky in the big silver tube. That's really what you want to hear.
Big silver metal tube.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh geez, whatever. But I'm still like, it's okay. I have 3 hours before my model starts. Like somehow, like it must be like a 20-minute flight from where they're going to land us in DC. And maybe it's just like get some gas and run, because I've also had that happen. So like, anyways, it all turns out that like 5 hours later, I'm still in Dulles, and they're like, yeah, the flight's canceled and there's no way for us to get you there. So I'm like, well, now what? So like the trains, it's now so late that I can't get a train. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of like a chicken also in the middle of the night with like all my luggage. I'm like, I'm going to be in New York City. I don't know. And like,
and just so everybody knows, Dulles isn't in DC.
No,
like
it's not.
DC, but it's not in DC. It's like 30 miles outside of the city, and it's in the middle of like a field.
Right.
So
it was terrible. Like when I kept looking logistically at stuff, I'm like, so I'm going to take an hour Uber to get to the train station and then do this. And I like call my mom, because that's what you do when you're like overwhelmed. And so my mom's like, do not get on a train. Like, no, Lexi, don't do that. I'm like, okay, I was like talking myself up that I was tough and like not going to fall asleep on the train in the middle of the night and like whatever. So anyways, all in all, it turns out that I go in a 4.5 5-hour Uber ride from Dulles, which is basically outside of DC, to New York City with a hefty price tag.
250 miles, bro.
Yeah. I went through like 4 states. Like, this was so scenic.
Right. 95. So
95 straight up.
Yeah. Thankfully it was like one freeway, and the Uber driver, who I kind of like hoodwinked, in all honesty, to take me, he was like, at least there's no traffic in Baltimore. I'm like, oh, cool.
I would have been afraid that the guy would have fell asleep because it's so late. How, is it at the end of his day he decides to take it?
Yeah, I don't know, because
it was the end of his day, whether it was the end of his day or not. I'm sure it's the last one he did.
So that was one of the first questions I asked, and I also was like, oh my gosh, like, is this okay? I shared my location with like 50 people, and I'm like, so you're just starting your day? And I know that's the question you like don't ask Uber drivers, right? They just don't even want to talk to you. But he's like, no, actually, you're my first ride. So I felt better.
That's awesome. Sort of awesome.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, so I got there safe and sound, and I don't know his name, but I appreciate him.
So if you're listening, she appreciates you.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
I am from San Diego, California.
Born and raised?
Yep.
That's born and raised. It's like the perfect weather area, right?
Yeah. So did you feel that earthquake a couple weeks ago?
You know what? I didn't. So I don't know. We're pretty, I don't know where. I think it was further north, like up north of LA. So, I mean, we have our fair share of earthquakes for sure, but usually we get the like tail end of it.
Wow.
We're watching Big Brother. So anyways, I guess they felt it because I guess this it's based out of LA.
Oh yeah, for sure they would have.
They're screaming, running around, hiding, jumping under tables and stuff like that.
Well, the second one I think was worse, right? Like more located in LA.
Any of them. We had a little vibration here in Maryland one year, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of weird.
I know. I was in a I guess it was like a 5.5 in Italy once.
Oh yeah, that's pretty substantial. I think that it's weird. We just like get used to it. I don't know, right? Like if there was going to be a tornado, I would like freak out, but just because I don't know what it's like.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the difference between an earthquake and a tornado, though, is that like you have warning that tornadoes are coming. You have warning that hurricanes are coming. You have no warning.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you shake.
That's true.
Eventually, they're going to be our second state in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
She loves to hear that. Right.
Well, I live pretty inland, so I'm like, maybe I'll have oceanfront property.
Right. Yeah. We have California breaks up. We have all these new islands.
I hope not, but
that's too scary.
That's so funny. What so how'd you get in the industry? How'd you find us?
Okay.
What's that trajectory?
Yeah, so I have like not the traditional story, and I'll try to make it more concise, but as a little girl, my grandmother owned a salon in Arizona, and after my grandparents did very well and they retired but wanted to have a business, and so they bought a booth rental salon in the late 80s, I guess. And so I grew up going back to Arizona to see my grandparents a lot, like my whole childhood, and like playing in the salon and thinking like, man, this is so cool. And then my grandma, I'm not going to lie, like wears a brown helmet, and she gets it fluffed up like on Thursdays and on Tuesdays and is the salon lady. So in all honesty, she probably bought the salon to like save her money. I don't think she has washed her hair. I don't know, probably like in the 50s, she washed her hair, her own, like somebody else has washed it. So she's like a fluff and go. The newest thing for her is that Yancy, who does her hair, doesn't use like rollers anymore. She sets it with a flat iron, and that's like been revolutionary.
Oh, wow.
and Yancy is young and hip and great. And it's just so funny. So Granny had the salon, and I grew up like in the salon world. Also, my mother, this is like such a silly thing, but she was the travel companion to Miss Arizona for pageants. So like you can kind of get a picture of like where I'm coming from. It's a little foo-foo.
So you're a pageant girl.
So I was a pageant baby, like when I was really little. And so again, in the salon, not in Arizona, here in California, but like I was around like beauty and fluffing and like all this fun, like, whatever. So then I grow up and like, I'm like, Mom, no more pageants. Like, I hate this. this is BS. Like, this is weird.
How old were you when you tapped out?
I think I was in like maybe 5th or 6th grade. And it wasn't like intense. Like, it wasn't like toddlers and tiaras, but it wasn't, I mean, it was just like our local stuff, but enough, like, was enough for me. It was not my thing. And my mom and I like fought tooth and nail. Like, every time it'd be a dress, she would like have to bribe me to wear that dress. Like, it was just not my jam. So, but I have that background that I love the salon, and the salon is really fun. And I remember being in my grandma's salon and thinking like, this environment is just the best ever, even though I wasn't really like allowed to touch anything or whatever, all those things, right? Don't touch the hydraulic chair. But from there, I went to school, and I just was a kid, and I didn't really think anything of it. I loved fashion and beauty, and it came time to like go to college, and that's what I did. I went to UCSD here in San Diego, and afterwards, or like in the process of that, I had an opportunity to buy a building while I was at UCSD. And
whoa.
right.
How does a student at UCSD get an opportunity to buy a building?
Right.
I mean,
so I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and my parents built a strip mall, and I was like, Dad, I want one of those units. And they were commercial condos. And he was like, oh yeah, I like, you want a lot of things, Lex, like, go ahead. And that was basically, you know, like, what kid isn't like, I want that. And I'm like, no, I want to have a business. And so he's like, okay, map it out. And my parents, you know, were like, yeah, right. She's not going to do that. Like all the other things, right? Like, you want to play baseball, you want to do, you quit halfway. And so I did, I mapped it out, and I went and to the salon that I got my hair done at religiously because I loved being there. And I talked with that hairstylist and was like, what about this? And what about that? And like, what do you really think about this part of the salon? Or if you could make the shampoo bowl better. And this was before the stand-up sinks like really were a thing. And like, we talked about that a lot. And so I just was like in my head, and the whole like puzzle of it all like lit me up. And so I brought back I Googled how to make a business plan. So I like make this like very traditional business plan and take it to my parents, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, that's interesting. You know, they're like, well, get us some more numbers. Like, we need some, like, then they were like actually having a conversation with me, because my parents had been in business in all kinds of businesses, literally, like, you name the industry, they probably had their hand in it at some point. Like, even when I was a little girl, we owned a hospital in Mexico. I'm saying like legitimately all kinds of business. So they were open to it. I think the one thing that they probably hadn't done was own a hair salon or anything in the beauty industry. I will say that my dad didn't understand how viable of an industry it was.
right.
Like, he knew that my mom spent a lot of money there, but like it was like over there, you know?
Right.
And so I came back, and they were like, okay, we'll help you do this. So my parents, because they owned the building, right? They owned the whole strip mall, and they were commercial condos, just let me get started, and they helped me do my build outs, but I didn't have to buy the building like that first day.
Right.
And then I used the building as collateral to get my loan and then repay my parents. And so it's just me and it has been the last 13 years on the loan and the title and all that.
What's a commercial condo?
So think like a strip mall, but you can own your building just like a condo that you would live in. So like you have like an HOA, like you share the roof and the parking lot, but everything like the walls and the inside is yours, and you own that piece of dirt underneath it.
So the landlord can't kick you out.
No landlord. You're looking at her.
Hey, landlord.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that business model at all.
Yeah. So it was something that my dad was like kind of pioneering, and it's not something that it's great for business owners, but it's not necessarily great in terms of like for a landowner. Like, you'd rather be the tenant for everybody, if that makes sense. Like, so someone who's in commercial real estate would rather have a bunch of tenants than commercial condos, but it's a great way for businesses to, you know, own their building, but still be in like a, you know, like a strip mall sort of location.
I love that.
I mean, I do too, but then I'm kind of thinking about her dad, like not her dad, but whoever owns that, like he can't kick everybody out if they want to build a high rise there, right? Like if the land becomes more valuable than it's worth.
Right. Well, we could as an association. So there's like 15 of us, there's 15 units, but there's only like 5 owners. because some of us own multiples. So
Right.
we could decide to sell or like do whatever as an association. So like
Got
there's like bylaws and stuff, just like if you live in a neighborhood, you can't do X, Y, and Z, whatever, like HOA agreement. So I think that it would make sense. But if I wanted to sell my building, I could, and someone could buy it and then just, or any of us actually.
I mean, for you, it's great, right? Because I mean, like one, it has more value than just the business, right? It's not, because as we know, like, salons aren't that valuable if you go and
Right.
buy one out. The people that own it think it's way more valuable than the
Always.
people that are buying it, than the people that are buying it. But you actually have
real property.
equity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that,
or you could just keep the space and sell the business.
Absolutely. And that's like a part of the long term that I don't know about yet, but there's certainly people that are in my building that they own their building and rent to a different business. That's certainly a viable possibility.
That's genius to get it on the ground floor, or if your parents own it.
Yeah, well, it was helpful. And like, I'm the first to say, like, I didn't save $1 million or work that hard for it. I worked my ass off afterwards when they said, here's the bill. And I was like, whoa.
Oh,
yeah, right. There's live works.
Right. And remember that I'm not a hairstylist at that point.
Well, that was actually, you just took my next question. I was like, so you're not, well, I guess my next statement.
Yeah. So after I graduated from college.
This is so, hold on. This is so like upside down, right?
Yep.
Because traditionally you go to hair school, you become a hairdresser, and then your goal is to eventually own a salon. She's like flipped it upside down.
Right.
Yeah. Totally. I want a business. I want a building. Then I want to become a hairdresser. But I'm not trying to go ahead.
Yes. So that's basically kind of what happened. Like I knew if you asked me like when I was a little kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I probably like a marine biologist, an astronaut, whatever. But then like, as I got older and when you go to college and people are like, well, what are you studying for? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'm not going to use my degree. Like this is an expensive piece of paper, but I am going to work for myself. Like I knew that pretty much like from like 15 on, I was like, oh yeah, there's no way. Like, cause I grew up in that lifestyle with my parents being entrepreneurs and both sets of grandparents is the same. Like, I didn't know what it would be like to sit at a desk. Like I couldn't fathom like showing up to work with a briefcase. Like that just didn't make sense to me. And so once I started with the salon and the business and that puzzle portion of it and like growing the business and having these women work there and like, don't get it twisted that this is like a romance fairy tale and everything was perfect those first couple of years, because it was not. But I did have some like very, I want to say basic, but I don't think it is, like business principles, like ingrained in me, like through life. Like I say, I grew up at the end of the boardroom table because I did. And so I started working in the salon and I was the receptionist. I did everything. I was the receptionist. I was a manager. I was the janitor. And I still am all those things, right? As a salon owner, and the plumber and the electrician and all the things. But I just knew that wasn't going to cut it for my life, right? Like being a glorified landlord is awesome. And I was 20 when I opened the salon, so it was fine for that period of my life, but there was more for me. And I knew that.
Hold on.
I know.
How in the world, I can't even like and I'm pretty open-minded about stuff. Let me be clear, but I can't imagine like my boss being this 20-year-old, college student,
right?
Like that this is my boss, like, and I can't even imagine, and no offense, Lex, but I can't imagine any 20-year-old ready for that role.
I know.
Like I can't imagine like what your growing pains must have been.
They were.
But guess what? Get into them.
Yeah, you're like, let's talk about that. So like right off the bat, people were, I mean, I can't think of any other word but assholes. Like, right. And pardon my French, but like they weren't super receptive, or they didn't know what to think. It's not their fault. It's just that I was doing something different. And I wasn't following like what you're saying, that traditional path. And it was hard for people. And I think that now, like being a disruptor is way more like normal. Like people are like,
but how are you disrupting at the time? I mean, aside from being 20, what were you doing that was different for the industry?
So in my area specifically, like there was, and I'm sure everywhere, and I think that we're still seeing the effects of this. And by no means am I saying that I created this effect. I'm just saying I did what was right for me, and what I could live with in the salon. And that was acting with integrity and helping everybody. And number one, I was like, the salon that I used to go to, I didn't want my salon to be like that. I wanted elements of it like that. And then there was another salon that I went to that was like way fancier in La Jolla. I loved it, but I didn't want my salon to be like that either. And I knew that the area where I chose to have my salon was affluent, but there wasn't an area or a salon that could accommodate those people in a way that they would feel A, comfortable, but B, that it was like the right value level kind of proposition for them. Like that this is the type of salon that kind of person goes to. Does that make sense? Where they still felt comfortable though. Like you didn't walk into that high-end salon, even though you're very like wealthy lady, but you felt less than when you walked in those doors. I didn't want that to happen.
Did you feel that you had a hard time receiving the respect because you were a young female? Such a young female?
For sure. But I also think that I was so naive and like so on cloud nine that like it didn't register.
I get that completely.
Like I just like, I don't think I would do half the stuff I did now then.
Well, those are called growing pains for a reason.
Right. But it worked. Like I would come home and I would be like I had this one rep that like tormented me. But like
there's no way.
Yeah. And then one day I finally was like, what is the friggin' deal? Like you need my business. I don't need you.
Yeah, there's 1,000 of those guys.
Right. And it's so crazy because this person like flat out told, like, and I don't know what it was, if she wanted me to accept her or like, I don't know what it was, but it was like the weirdest interaction. I would come home and like go talk to my parents and be like, can you believe this? And like, this woman is like 40 something years old. And here I am like 20, 21, having these interactions. And it was just like so mind blowing to me that people weren't kind.
Right.
And I'm like, why don't you want me to succeed? And then I'm also 21, fiery, and kind of like want to give middle fingers because watch me. I still have that.
You know, you just keep them in your pocket so people can see you in their in your rear view mirror.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's so crazy. And I've grown so much through all of that. But like, the specific woman that I'm thinking of, like, she told me, oh, well, that will never work. Like, you won't ever make any money. And I'm thinking, how would you know? You've never owned a salon.
Well,
it sounds like jealousy to me.
100%.
Sounds like jealousy to me too. But even at 20 or 21, especially not coming up in the industry, not being a part of that, a question that came into my head, I don't know, 5 minutes ago that I didn't ask was that, how did you figure out the pay structure? Because there is a pay structure in our industry that's different than everybody else. And so, and on top of that, from what this lady said, like, how did you know what advice was good advice and what was standard advice? And then what advice was just like balderdash, or was it just a gut?
So let me clarify one thing. I have a booth rental salon.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes things a little bit easier.
A lot easier. And that was part of my business model to start, is that I didn't, because again, I'm not a hairstylist at this point. I didn't know that I was going to be a hairstylist. So I'm like, I need to do something. And I thought I was going to go to law school or be a teacher. I don't know what I freaking thought, really. But I knew that the business needed to be sustainable without me having to like do a lot. And that's why my parents were so gung-ho about like helping me get started, because it wasn't like, at the end of the day, basically I'm a glorified landlord. I do a whole hell of a lot more than that, but that is ultimately I rent time and space.
I'm so impressed. Everything she said, it all like, she wanted to do that to help others, right? Even like when she said, I'm going to be a lawyer or a marine biologist, or everything that it all circles back to helping others.
Yeah, completely.
So
that's nice.
She even helped an Uber driver out.
Yeah, maybe. Poor guy. I hope he got a good slice or something on the way.
Yeah, I think he helped her out. Exactly.
Yeah, well, that was good.
That's the big secret about helping others, right?
Right. It's a big circle. It comes back. No, but it really all I wanted to do was make a place that people would feel comfortable to get services, and also that people would feel good to work in. And in the beginning, I had a lot of people that were like, yeah, I'll go work for this chick. They didn't know anything about me. Like, just somebody told them there's a new salon. right? Which now, like, it's bonkers. But I'm so glad they came, because otherwise I would have had an empty shop.
Mom, dad.
Right. Who wants to cut hair today? And it's so crazy because I started with 3, and now I have 25. And
Whoa. Same space?
Same space, yeah. Well, I expanded into one next door, into another condo. So I have 2 units that are like connected. You can walk back and forth. And really, like, it was just about acting with integrity. And I know that sounds kind of basic, but I don't think that at the time it was happening. So, like, stuff would happen and I would hear about it at other salons, and I'm like, that makes no sense to me. And it doesn't matter how old you are, like, you know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And you know what's spurred by greed, and you know what's not, and what's genuine. And that for me was just like, if I just act like with my own principles, things should be all right. And then people started showing up, and they started hearing that, like, I did nice things, and we went out all together and we had fun. And if one of our girls is in a burlesque troupe, we all go watch her burlesque, even though it's like kind of awkward to watch her take her clothes off and sing. Like, whatever, we love her, we support her, and we really do have a family and a team. And that was kind of what I led with, is that like, I wanted this to be a good environment, and like, I would have 0 drama. So like, I've literally packed people's stuff up, put it outside. Like, I've done some things that, again, like, I might not do now, but I did it then, and it really set the tone of, this is what it's like to work at Ooh La La.
So how do you, as a landlord, like, how do you pack someone's bags up?
Well, it probably wasn't perfectly legal. But like, there are lots of,
to me, I'd tell you to kiss my ass and I'd show up again tomorrow. I mean, if I'm being honest, I mean, you can't kick me out of my own space, essentially.
Right. But just like your home, I mean, if you don't, or your apartment or wherever, you know, if you rent and you violate the contract, like maybe for not paying or for like whatever it is.
That's a different story. That's an eviction.
Right.
But,
So
I mean,
technically that's kind of what it is. And so basically, if they violated my contract, then they were evicted.
And part of the contract is you got to be a nice person.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like, it says like for any reason, like both ways. And I asked for 2 weeks notice. This chick though, she was like,
whatever. You don't have to explain. It's all good.
But you know, so, like the end all be all situation where you're like, this is the last resort.
So how long did it take from being a landlord to like, I want to actually do hair? So
after I graduated from school, then I continued going to college. I went to fashion school because I thought, why not? Apparently.
Sure.
And then during that time in fashion school, I was like, what am I doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, these chicks are having so much fun at work. I want to be there because it's my investment and my future. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. My best friend was going to law school, and I was like, that looks like awful death. And being a teacher also sounded pretty bad. Not gonna lie, children are great, but like, I had them in the salon and got a real glimpse of like what they're really like. So I wasn't into that. And I mean, like, bless your children, but not in the salon, or at least not in mine. And so, just, you know, I think that ultimately I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? But I also can't go to beauty school. Like, I just spent the last like 5.5 years of my life going to school, and like, you have freedom in that. So I could be at the salon because the salon's my priority. So I did the apprenticeship through, like the state, like a plumber would do. Right. And I had to change like all these things so that I could do it in my own salon. It was totally legal. I just had like, you know, I couldn't be my own, like teacher.
Mentor.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I had 3 women in the salon, my OGs, you know, and they're all still there. And so they were my teachers. They would sign off. And I mean, I was there more than the 40 hours I had to be. So I was done pretty fast. And in that time, I learned a whole lot.
How are you your boss and your subordinate at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, it's like entrepreneurship, but it's at its best.
This is amazing.
It really, really, truly is.
It's so funny because I don't tell like the whole story very often. So thanks for asking. It's kind of fun.
Dude, that's crazy. So, I mean, I want them on the podcast. I have so many questions for them.
They would have an interesting take, I'm sure.
But I mean, obviously you get this from your parents and from your grandparents, right? So a generation of entrepreneurs, several generations, but because not so many 20-something-year-olds have that kind of drive and determination to own a building, to own a salon, and then go ahead and, apprentice
in your own business.
in your own business. So, now you're learning something new. You got to take the role of the student as an apprentice, but at the same time, you're running the whole show.
Right. Well, and the salon at that point wasn't as massive as it is now. But I'm organized, and I have systems and programs in place. And so the salon became a pretty well-oiled machine at that point. And of course that does come from leadership and putting things in place and practicing what you preach. But then to go and be I think ultimately for me to be the apprentice in my own salon was the total show of that I lived it. I had no ego in it, that they could share with me, that we are a team.
It's like that song, I'm my own grandpa.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome. But
that's amazing.
Again, remember, she had her grandparents to call because they've lived it as well, right?
Right. Yeah. And in a booth rental situation. So but it's so funny. I have my grandma's contract, and it's literally from a typewriter. It has the paper things on the side with the holes. Yeah. So it's pretty whack, but but I followed that because it seemed to work. And that was my first go. And then obviously we've had multiple iterations since then.
That's incredible, man.
All right. So, but that's not enough.
Right? She's not doing enough.
We haven't even gotten to what she's doing currently.
I know, that's so crazy. So how long have you been doing hair?
I've been doing hair. I think this is my 9th year. So it was pretty fast because we've been in business for 13. So it wasn't that long that I wasn't. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. I have to look.
Right. That's incredible, though. So then you got bored of doing hair. You got bored of being the landlord and stuff. So then you had to shoot your career off in a whole different trajectory.
Well, I guess so. And it is, I guess, in true entrepreneur fashion, I have that ADD. I've always got to be doing something new and challenging myself because I really there are people in our industry and they are artists and they are called to do the work behind the chair so much. I am not one of them. And I know that, and that's fine. Do I give great hair? Absolutely. Do I give my clients my all? 110%. But there are people that just have that natural ability and that oh my gosh, how did you come up with that? And that's not me. So for me, behind the chair is fun, and it was a means to an end to figure out what to do with my life, in that position, and balance all of the balls between running the salon and being there and facilitating my ultimate goal of owning this building outright one day, and all of that stuff. So I love being behind the chair, and I think ultimately what I started and how I've transitioned into this whole new coaching thing is people were like, Lexi, I'm a salon owner, and how are you doing that? And how, because people were talking about it. I was young, it was different, and it was successful. And some salons just frankly have never been successful. I don't know how they keep the doors open with Band-Aids and pennies, I guess. But and I'm not in the most affluent area of San Diego. I'm just in regular neighborhood, so word was getting around, but we hosted a lot of education and stuff. And so I was asked by KMS to come and try out to be an educator. And then that really pushed me into being an artistic trainer for them, and then bringing that back to the salon, and then teaching my staff what I learned, just I'd go to a training, I'd come home, I'd share with everybody. And from there, we established an assistant program. So now we bring in young talent and bring them up in my program. And they're using the systems that I did to build my clientele, because that happened rather quickly. And those are things that I teach now, right? How to do that, and how to maintain your business, and how to have a staff that works well together, and to have peace in your life and in your business. And so all of that fast forwarded to now, where I'm coaching other stylists and other businesses how to do the same thing.
I'm in all of you, to be honest.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, completely. It's just amazing, right?
It's funny how this whole conversation went full circle, because now we're back to the superhero part again, right?
No. It's crazy because I don't, people say stuff like that often to me, or like, how do you do all that? And it's like, I just do it. I don't know. Like, I think that it's what I'm called to do. And I think that I had to go through all that stuff, and like, don't think it happened in 10 minutes either. It was 13 years, like that's a long time. I just started young, and I used to say, and this is like one of my taglines that my husband like will give me crap for, I'm sure. But, like, if the time is going to pass anyways, you might as well use it wisely. And that's what I would tell people, like, when they would say, you're so young. And I'm like, and?
Right, exactly.
So I had to come up with something, and that was like my armor against it. But in reality, it's true. Like, if you want to do something, you should do it.
Say it again.
Oh, now I got to think about it.
Not one of the famous taglines.
Yeah,
right?
I know. And I forgot it. No,
if the time's going to pass anyways, then you might as well.
Yeah, if the time is going to pass anyways, you may as well use it wisely.
Love it. Oh, I love that, right?
That's a t-shirt.
That's a t-shirt.
it definitely is a t-shirt, but yeah.
I love it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So okay, so people are reaching out, and then when did you at what point did you decide that like you're going to go all in, or have you gone all in on the business coaching thing? And then are you a business coach for salons? Are you a business coach for hairstylists? Are you a business coach for all the above?
Yep, all of the above. And ultimately, I think it was last year. So in 2018 in May, I put a post up and was like, I'm going to do this. Like, here I am. I'm Lexi. I'm going to share like what I do. And I was so nervous about it, which is so silly because like all that limiting belief, self-doubt, like the crap that we have in our head, like I could have done this 5 years ago, and it probably would have been a wise decision, when the internet was working in your favor a little more, but
you weren't ready, dude. So it wasn't
ready. Right. Exactly. And so when I knew I was ready, and I felt like I needed to have like at least like 5 solid success stories, and not just like people outside of my salon,
Right.
And so I just started helping people for free.
Looking for sainthood.
What?
You're looking for sainthood.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to have that validity, like from people outside of my salon, because I thought like, oh, well, this like, I think people sometimes like, they are correct in their judgment if it's their judgment, but like, oh, she had a salon handed to her. Oh, like this. Oh, look, she coaches people. Like, no, I actually do it. And I wanted proof like outside of there. And that's like my own crap that I carry around because we all have it.
Sure.
But I needed that like from somewhere outside of my salon in order for me to feel like I can do this. Does that make sense?
Right. 100%.
Okay.
I mean, it's just your own validity. It's like you're just validating yourself and what you're up to. I get that
because
yeah. So once I did that, and I just worked for free. I just helped people that I met like through teaching, through going to education, anybody that would like literally listen to me, and then I would just put my 2 cents in, and then if they were open, we would go down a little bit deeper, and I would just help them, and then they started having success. And so once I kind of felt like, okay, I now felt comfortable, I don't think there was like a flip of a switch or anything, then I just went for it, put my website up, started telling people, and here we are.
Unfortunately, and this is maybe not your case, but a lot of people, they do things but they're afraid of the mean girl or the bully, which is a very small portion
of people
of the audience, right? But you're more honed into that than just being you doing what you do to help and share and empower others.
Absolutely. And I will say that I've come like such a long way in the last year with that, just because I know that I have to embody what I'm sharing, and we all have like baggage and limiting beliefs and all of that stuff, but you've got to come around it somehow. And ultimately it's like, how bad do you want it? Because if you care about like what somebody might say about you more than you want that thing, well, then you don't really want that thing.
Yeah. Like our good friend, Jen Plank, she, you could be in a room full of 100 people and really that your story or you might only affect one person, but you affected the right person.
Absolutely.
The other 99 can walk away and be like, wow, that wasted my time. But that one person, you could have changed their life forever.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's so huge to remember, because you don't know who you're, even just by like smiling at somebody on the street, right? Like that goes so far.
100%. So, all right. So now we're all in.
Yep.
So now you're helping everybody.
I'm all in. I really truly believe that it's my purpose to share like how I've done all this so that people can live their life according to whatever success they define, right? But so that they can do it and give them the tools and the systems that I used, which are not rocket science, but they're things that I've, perfected and crafted over the years. And why not? If you want something, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't try.
Right?
Right. I know, right? Just you're so inspiring. My friend, that's so cool.
You know, it's so funny because I never think, like I used to say, like when I would brainstorm or like talk out loud to anyone who would listen that wasn't like going to be my client, that like I wanted to be more like a kick in the pants. Like I didn't want to be all hugs, like I just was like, go do it. And so I never thought like inspirational would be like the word, but people use it all the time and it cracks me up because I really like never would have picked that word.
For you?
Right. Yeah. Like motivational, maybe. I guess they're very close, but it's so funny because I was like, there's too many people out there just handing out hugs. It's like, you don't need a hug, you need a kick in the pants. And it's like, okay, wait, maybe you need both.
Right. Yeah. I think you need, I think you need the hug first, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. I believe in you because I think in my years of mentoring like young hairstylists and I did some coaching for a while, sports coaching. And I think the one thing that we all struggle with is just this belief that one believes in you,
Absolutely.
right? And just the words that I believe in you, and sometimes that's delivered with a hug or not. Like I think that those can be some of the most motivating and inspiring kind of words that one can hear, as long as you mean it.
Absolutely.
You're delivering it. I believe that you can do this. I mean, I think listen. I'll be completely honest. It's what was missing in my life, my entire life, right? And like I never kind of felt
until you met me.
Oh, that's what a best bud is for.
Best bud is she's the best.
Get my spot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's what I've struggled with my pretty much my entire adulthood, and that's just that why would anybody believe in me because I suck, because that's kind of
because nobody told you
how I grew up. Well, and I was more that nobody told me that they believed in me, but they would also push me down when I tried to achieve anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting because as like you start something and it takes you somewhere else, but I have learned in the past year that that's really a prevalent thing. And so like for me, I'm incredibly blessed that I had parents that probably were too over enthusiastic about that. And so I just thought, well, why not? I can. But the one thing that I find myself saying a lot is you deserve this, and that's something that people really don't think. And so I've now made it my mission for the women that I work with that they do deserve it and they will achieve it because they, and then they embody it too.
So does your parents or grandparents, are they like just so proud and just look at you like, man,
it's so funny. My mom the other day goes, somebody said they saw you online. And I said, oh, that's nice. Like, she's like, what is it that you're doing? Like, I mean, yes, they're so proud of me and like, obviously, but my mom has like,
no clue what you're up to.
Not really. Like I told her the other day, hey, I really need some help. Like, could you and she's like, is that on my computer? And she's not like a dimwit. Like, I'm not saying that, but she's like, what do I have to do? Like, tell me exactly, my mom's very, very intelligent and can do anything, but it's funny because she doesn't actually understand. Like, she knows I'm helping people grow their business.
Right.
But like, she comes in here and she was like, why can't you move that? My light's in the background. And I'm like, well, because then I have to figure out where it goes again, because I'm recording videos all the time.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, no, I think so.
You brought something up and you said that, the women that you help, it's really interesting, or, I kind of want to get your take on, like, I've noticed it in the last, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, I guess, just this, like this women sticking together and this positive kind of thing. I mean, I know you were on Elizabeth's podcast and, Elizabeth is a good friend of ours, but, like she's doing it with her retreats and stuff.
Yes.
Like, I just think it's a really, really neat place for women to be in this industry, like right now, right here. I mean, it is the utopia.
Right. Well, and I think that like, maybe it's just like the times are going to like level out. That's my like utopian hope. but I think I do think that like girl power and like God bless the Spice Girls, you know, that is something that's real. And I think that when we can get over that like whole competition mindset, which is something that like really doesn't resonate for sure with Elizabeth and with me and with most of us like that, you know, are trying to make this difference, whether we're knowingly doing it or not, that if you can get past that and just like embrace people for what they're good at and love them where they are, and I don't know, just like help people and just serve, like be their friend. Like it's just not that complicated. And I think that once we get back to those like foundational pillars, like I don't really think it matters if you're a man or a woman, but I think that women are finding that support right now in our industry just because there are so many of us, you know? And I think that it's nice that like maybe 5 years ago, like all the like badass platform artists like cutting on stage were men, like, you know, and now you're starting to see like, hey, that might be changing, you know, but I think that's just the world, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's actually,
I'm all for it.
I'm for it too. I mean, I don't feel like I'm left out on any means. I kind of dig seeing it because I don't feel like I'm being a Heisman over it either.
Yeah, we both have daughters too, so
Right.
I think it gives us a different perspective.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because
than when I was 18.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, and just like times are different, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to all those like big social problems, but I think that it's just cool to have community. And I think that maybe like the generation of women hairstylists right now, like have the mentality that like it's hard. And I think basically anyone in this world right now has this mentality that there's too much to do. And like there are so many pressures of society and social media and like life that you can't do it alone. And so I think that's what's ultimately bringing us all together.
I love that. You know, something you brought up as almost as a joke, but I actually think there's some seriousness to it as well. Is you kind of mentioned the Spice Girls and girl power.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about that is like I'm just recalling off the top of my head, but I think the Spice Girls have come up no less than like 4 or 5 times on the podcast. So that being said, and like, and you're of the generation when you were a kid, kind of when they were popular. So it's kind of interesting that although it's kind of a jokey song, it's kind of a joke of a song or whatever,
Right.
but I think it was successful in what it did, and it in fact it empowered this whole generation of young women. And not necessarily that you're young now, but you know at the time, like you know you didn't know that you couldn't be successful.
No, for sure. And I mean I was in 6th grade the first time I heard that song, right? Like Tell Me What You Want.
What you really want.
And I was like, what is that?
Right.
Like the music was different. Like, I don't know. It spoke to me and my like 11-year-old soul. And I think that they were onto something, but there's so many of us that are in our, you know, early 30s now. And that's what we started. But I think since then it like maybe sparked a little fire.
Yeah. Again, I think it's because, you know, you didn't know you couldn't.
I do.
The Spice Girls said you did. You know?
I do think that's, I think about that kind of stuff a lot. And like, I wonder what like these granola kids with like really whack names are going to be like in 20 years.
Like Lexi?
Yeah. Like, okay. Literally Lexi was the wackest name. Like I was the only one. There was like Jessica and Sarah and like Elizabeth and so many. Right. And here I am. And they're like, oh, that's my dog's name. You know, and now it's like your name could be friggin' Lantern. And like, that's awesome.
Right.
Like no hate on that name.
Lantern Lomax.
Yeah. Oh God.
My daughter was the only Skyla.
Yeah. Lots of Skylers with the ER.
Right.
Right?
Or like all the IE names like Kenzie and all that. You know, I mean, there's just like so many. I mean, my best girlfriend, her kids' names are Ren and Isla.
I kind of like that though.
Yeah, they're beautiful and the girls are great. And, you know, but like, they're like no germs, like literally, you know, just like, so I'm interested to see like what we're doing to our generation of children, you know, and like what that'll translate to.
Yeah. We'll be considered terrible parents too, just like every generation.
Right. I think that's kind of, it's all cyclical, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, on that, like I always find it interesting or funny, like when people start talking about like millennials or whatever. And to me, it's just funny because I'm like, come on, like Frank Sinatra was supposed to ruin life and Elvis was supposed to ruin life and the Beatles were. You always have this like place with the next generation, right? It's just some place to blame the world's ills on is the next generation, or that they're not doing enough. But that's always been the narrative, that generation. I mean, I remember being a kid, like you can look at any like early 80s movie and look at teenagers and they were all like valley people and like, they're never going to do anything. Well, that's us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, that was our generation. We had the same pressures. So, that narrative has never, ever, 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 ever changed. And I think the results are going to be exactly the same, which is like not results.
Yeah. Or maybe a little forward progress.
That's awesome. Lex, so like if somebody wanted to use your services or get in touch with you, what's the best ways?
Yeah, so Instagram's great. I'm at Lomax, LOMAX.LEXI. You can find all things there, or Lomax or LexiLomax.com for sure. And I host masterminds. I do private coaching. I have some online courses. I've got all kinds of like varying levels for people when they're ready, to jump in and learn the systems and to really just like put peace into their business while still reaching their goals.
So let's kind of walk through a little bit. Sorry, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but what do you offer? Like if I'm a salon owner or what do you offer in let's stay there.
Yeah, one at a time. So I offer private coaching services, which basically you get me, like I'm there for you, 24/7, basically text, phone calls, whatever. We walk through like a map out that I design like based on their needs, and then we just like crush stuff like off the list into reality. And then I have smaller packages of calls where we can just do one-on-one calls, like audits on your business, like anything really. Like you call with a question, we work through it, and then I don't talk to you for a while, and then you call me again, right? Not as much hand-holding and like personal service as the private coaching. And then I have my mastermind, which is like my love. And basically we work through all the things that relate to salon business, and that you can be a hairstylist, salon owner. You could be even maybe an esthetician or like a makeup artist. You can be anything that's in our industry that you take yourself seriously as a business. You can even be a commission stylist and be in my mastermind. Currently I have 2 in the group I'm running right now. And it's super small. There's 6 people in a group, and we just work through stuff together, a 6-month commitment. And it's just like where the magic happens. And then I have free courses and courses that you can pay for.
It's like a 12-step program then, right? Like you kind of support each other and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Do you do it over the phone or do you do it over the computer, Skype?
Yeah, we
Facebook?
do it via Zoom, and then they have access to a portal where there's like all of these lessons that I've created that they can do like their homework before we get to the meeting, or they can have the meeting and then do it backwards. It really works either way, however like you best learn. And then the meetings are all via Zoom, just like this.
That is so cool, man.
It's really
I had
fun.
so much fun in this conversation.
I did too. Lex, we are big, massive, huge fans of
thank
you.
you guys.
I can't wait till we meet in real life at an event or something.
Yes, I know.
But
that's so cool. I can't wait.
Much love and much respect.
Oh, thank you guys. Well, I feel the same way about you. I can't wait to be in and share real air with you.
That's right. I love it. That's so funny. Miss Lexi Lomax, the what do we call her? Superhero Lexi Lomax.
Yeah,
superhero Lexi Lomax. Thank you very, very much for joining us on your day off.
Thank you.
Hey, so there it is. Hey, this is a message that we've been trying to bring, I don't know, for the last couple of months, actually since we started the podcast. Hey, so if you like the podcast or if you find that it's useful, please leave us a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave us a rating and a review.
But if you don't like it, forget about it.
Yeah, totally forget about this message. We also want to thank Sarah and Blaine from Pretty Gritty. Sarah and Blaine, they are a band out of Portland, Oregon, and we just want to thank them very much for allowing us to use their song, Pleased to Meet You, on our podcast. That's cool. I think you can find their music on iTunes.
Peace and hair grease.